it's pretty interesting. This whole story, and we've said this Rooney Rule should be the number one thing the NFL should be investigating as these head coaching jobs become available every single year. A lot of teams have a problem with it. I don't know why. Byron Leftwich, I think, would be a very good head coach in the NFL. He's been a good quarterback coach. We've seen what he's done when he was in with the Jaguars organization. He was a good offensive coordinator too when he was an offensive coordinator as well. I just think, obviously, guys like Brian Flores, who obviously, if anybody remembers that story with Miami, this was the problem. Brian Flores complained that the Rooney Rule was not being implicated in any of or from any of these teams. He complained about Pittsburgh. He complained about many different organizations that they're not interviewing black head coaches. It's been a big problem for the NFL. Roger Goodell should be dropping the hammer on these teams. You should be, if teams are not doing this, they should be losing a high draft pick. I wouldn't say a first round, but a second or third round, they should absolutely lose. It has been a big problem. The NFL obviously investigating and saying that it's a sham, and Albert Breer coming out and saying what he says. He's not wrong, but what does Albert Breer know about what these teams are doing on and off the field? Now, obviously, their stories, and obviously they have an inside source, but those sources don't give you the guaranteed interviews that they're interviewing every single week by week, day by day, second by second. I've seen it. Look at the Jets. When they interviewed Robert Saleh, the first time they interviewed Robert Saleh was on Zoom. That's how they interviewed Robert Saleh. He wasn't called in. It's different now. The world is different. You can digitally interview a coach. So how do you know what, I don't know, Woody Johnson is doing? How do you know that Woody Johnson didn't interview 5 African-American head coaches? You don't know what he was doing. But obviously, you're insinuating, saying that there are teams not doing that. You're not probably wrong. But the Patriots are an organization that Robert Kraft has gotten away with practically everything. Do we want to go back on all the things that they've been caught for? Everybody wants to point their fingers at Bill Belichick. And Bob Kraft wanted to point his fingers at Bill Belichick on the Dynasty show. But guess what? He is the owner. If you don't think he has an inside source and you don't think he is the source, then you're effing blind. This guy knows what's going on, as he loves to go to those hand gesture places to have his thingy played with. Okay? So if you're going to tell me
hand gesture
places, yes, honest to God, if you think of the situation for what it is, Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell are probably hanging out at those parlors. I think this is an absolute sham as well. But I'm not going to insinuate anything on what Robert Kraft was doing because I'm not hanging on his wall. Maybe I'm hanging on his underwear if he's out again at one of those places. I'm sure everybody's got their hands in his pants. But nevertheless, I'm not going to tell you who he hasn't interviewed. So do I think this is a problem? 100%. Do I think the NFL has done nothing for it? I absolutely believe that too. But do I want to insinuate and say that I know who the Patriots interviewed and who they didn't? I don't know. So why are we even bringing this up? Remember when Brian Flores got in trouble and everybody said, and all these writers, including Albert Breer, came out and said that Brian Flores will never get another head coaching job ever again after this whole thing? Yeah. Boy, oh boy, was he wrong. Because Brian Flores is one of the lead candidates to get one of these jobs. Right. So I can't wait to poop on Albert Breer's little interviewing board or his little board of what he writes on every single time he writes a damn story. He's an idiot. These guys just write to hear themselves talk. It's an absolute sham that they have to open up their mouth. Brian Flores is absolutely getting a job this offseason. 100%. Yeah. You could book it and seal it. Yep. He's going to have a job. I do believe that if the team has one candidate that they are absolutely going to hire or that he's their number one target, that's going to be the one they're targeting. There are a lot of these different guys from different countries and different minority groups and families that they come from. I mean, eventually there's going to be a Chinese coach, and eventually there's going to be a woman head coach. It's going to happen one way or another. Sports has transitioned in many different ways. Like you just mentioned, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark changed women's basketball. And now what does that open up?
Not if you ask Angel Reese.
Well, Angel Reese is on her little, her little magazine. What do they call that? That magazine trend where she was in. I think she was on GQ, and now she's doing all these different magazines at the end of the season. She's jumping from one magazine to the other. And there's a lot of hatred for Caitlin Clark. I don't understand it. I still don't understand it. It's jealousy. But nevertheless,
did you see Shaq go on Angel Reese's podcast?
Yes.
And just give her the business?
Yes. But you see, Shaquille O'Neal stands by what he believes in. And he said, while this was going on, he said that Caitlin Clark was good for the WNBA. And she's helped the WNBA get looks where they probably weren't going to get looks without her being there and being center stage for the WNBA. It's just a shame. And again, going back to Brian Flores there were so many writers saying he's never going to get another job. He's never going to get interviewed because of what he did. He threw the NFL under the bus. Why do you think that this is going on right now? It's because of Brian Flores. Brian Flores dropped their hammer on the NFL, and every single writer, including Albert Breer, came out and said, this man's never getting another coaching job. Boy, oh boy, he better be eating his words after this because that man is getting hired.